What's up, Starcraft fans? In the co-op missions, there are 13 possible enemy unit compositions for the player to go up against. In order for you to have the best chance possible of performing well in mutation and regular missions, you will need to react well to what the enemy composition is, especially if you have a commander who can vary their army unit composition, such as Artanis, Phoenix, or Kerrigan. Fortunately, it is easy to determine what the enemy composition will be based on an early wave, and I patched together some stuff to come up with this here chart that illustrates how. On the leftmost column, we have the enemy race, Protos, Terran, and Zerg, and then we have the wave where you can determine the AI composition. As you can see, you can be sure to determine the composition for Terran on the very first wave, and determine the composition for Protoss and Zerg on the second wave. The exception is Ground Zerg, which is determined on the first wave for Zerg. Let's go in depth, beginning with Protoss. The first wave doesn't actually tell you much, except that if you fight adepts, you are guaranteed to have air units try to attack your base at some point in the game. The second wave is what determines your enemy. Stalkers will mean that you'll fight gateway units. Either you'll get High Templar, Archons, and later on Colossus, or Dark Templar, and later on Phoenix and Disruptors. These are the easiest enemy compositions for many commanders, since the attack waves don't have that many hard-hitting units until later on, and they don't have super annoying spellcasters like Ravens or Vipers. If the second unit has sentries, it means you'll fight robo units. Immortals will arrive during the mid-game, and you'll have either Colossus if Zealots, or Reaver Disruptor if Aderps. If you are rolling for a no-air composition, you will want either of these waves, because they both send scouts later on. I mean, you do not want either of these waves rather, since they both send scouts later on. You'll want to be careful when engaging these compositions as they deal a lot of splash damage. Air units are very effective against them though, so if you're playing, for example, Artanis, you might want to go for Tempests when fighting these, or Carriers if you're going as Carax. Speaking of air, seeing the Scout or the Phoenix in the second wave indicates that enemy composition is air-based. This is very unfavorable for many commanders since they will be forced into getting a lot of anti-air in the mid-game. Even Raynor can be overwhelmed if he doesn't have Marines to deal with the grouped up air units early on, or have the Hyperion available. This has happened to me before on missed opportunities where I was trying to solo a map and I got scouts, and the Bioforce I had at that point got absolutely shredded by the scouts. A notable exception is Chain of Ascension, where even the 7-minute wave for the Dark Templar composition will also have Phoenixes, and it's pretty easy to misidentify the composition on Chain of Ascension, especially, like I said, because it has Phoenixes. You'll want to react to later waves, but regardless, you'll want to get some anti-air since that map has lots of air stuff anyway. Moving into Terran, let me zoom out a bit. There we go. Moving into Terran, you can immediately identify what the enemy composition you will be fighting based on the first wave. Vikings are, obviously, for Sky Terran, which is one of the most difficult enemy compositions in the game, partly because the units come up with tons of armor, and partly because Banshees and Liberators have such a low target priority, yet deal so much damage. You will want to snipe these first before you clean up the Vikings and battlecruisers afterwards. Regardless of which commander you have, you'll want tons of anti-air as soon as you see Vikings in the first wave. For some mutations, this is a guaranteed loss. For some commander combinations, they just have too much firepower. Reapers in the first wave mean that you need to be prepared for the most annoying enemy composition in the game. Even the first wave is tricky to hold off for some commanders, since Reapers chew through static defense and tanking buildings, so even your barracks or your command center can get taken down if you don't have your hero unit or your top bar ready by then. Liberators, Cyclones, Ravens, and often nukes will come your way, and you'll need to react properly to fight all of them. I can't think of any commander right now who actually likes this enemy composition called Shadow Tech. They all experience varying degrees of pain when dealing with it. Then we have obviously Terran Bio. This one is actually relatively tame for an enemy composition, and is even favorable for commanders like Zagara and Alarak, since the large group of small units is pretty satisfying for their splash spells to deal with. such as the Bailing Barrage, even Reavers, and then the Ascendant Psionic Orbs are pretty good against Bio. It will still bring out the battle cruisers later on, but that is when the commanders have properly ramped up and have answers for it. And then we have Hellions, which naturally indicates Terran mech. All units here, with the exception of the science vessel, are factory units. They hit hard and have tons of health. The good news is that this is pure ground, and you don't really need that good of an anti-air when fighting it. Immortals, Shadow Fury, Toxic Nests, and Rob Cannonball Boswell are fantastic options to deal with them. Basically, you hit them harder. They hit hard, you hit harder. Get detection for the Widow Mines. Oh, and regardless of the enemy unit composition, you will get nukes, depending on the map. I know for a fact that Oblivion Express has a lot of nukes, Dead of Night has nukes, Void Launch has nukes, and it's up to the player to see if they can take out the Ghost Academies before the nukes come way too often, or just have static defense and detection, and react in time. Finally, we have the Zerg with only 3 compositions. Alright. With only 3 compositions. 2 of them arrive with Zerglings in the first wave, and both have air units. Mutalisks in the second wave indicate Corruptors and Broodlords, and later on indicate Corruptors and Broodlords later on, yeah. And Bailings in the second wave indicate the much more difficult swarmy composition of Bailing Scourge. This one is also difficult to deal with since Bailings, Aberrations, and Swarmhost Locusts deal tons of damage. Plus the Scourge can famously take down the Temple of the Past in a split second, like that. Splash damage is your best option for both of these enemy compositions. For Dehaka, you want to make sure that the Infestors and Vipers, or you want to devour the Infestors and Vipers, since that will detonate a magic fart that destroys the entire wave. It's pretty satisfying when you see a massive Broodlords heading your way, you jump right in the middle and devour that Infestor, and then it all goes away. Just like that. I guess for Dehaka, same goes. If you're fighting, for example, Gateway Protos, you'll just want to find the High Templar, devour that, and they'll destroy the rest. Same for Robo. Jump in the middle, devour the sentries, destroy the rest. Terran is probably the most annoying for Dehaka, and also for Abathur because of the biomass and essence. But for Dehaka in particular, only the Ghost is a psionic unit. Not the Raven or the Science Vessel will give him that magic fort that the Zerg and Protoss compositions do. Anyway, we have finally the Roaches, which indicates Zerg ground. This one comes with no air units, so feel free to mass siege tanks, spider mines, lurkers, reavers, and all that ground splash that the co-op commanders are generally great at. If you are rolling for ground only, you will want the gateway composition for Protoss. Let me find that, yeah. You'll want the gateway composition for Protoss. Just the Zealots and Stalkers will give you that combo. For Terran, only Terran mech will have no combat air units, but keep an eye out for Irradiate from Science Vessels. And from Zerg, you'll want the Roach composition since that's the only ground for Zerg. If you see Zerglings, that's pretty much you're guaranteed to have air for Zerg. And if you want to have a copy, I'll have an image of this linked down below so you can save it or something. It's in 1440p, but you can clearly crop some stuff to 1080p and lower. Alright, hope you enjoyed that. Thank you for watching. If you have an idea for what else you can do, please leave that in a comment. See you.